Hey everybody, welcome back to just another tutorial video I thought I'd throw up for you guys. This one is basically going to be showing you how to take multiple images that you've shot and then combine them into one larger panoramic image. So basically this is a lifeboat, or I don't know if you want to call it that, maybe it's a dinghy, just a small rowboat, and it was just sitting out here in the water and I wanted to shoot it, but I was really close to it and I didn't have a wide enough lens, so I had to take multiple images, as you can see here. And what I did was I just moved slightly one direction for each of the images. And then what I knew I could do is take it back into Photoshop and combine the images to get one larger image, which is what we have here. And so we'll go ahead and show you how I did that. Basically, you're going to take the images that you want to use. So let's start with this one, and we're going to go all the way down to this last one here. And so that's 8 images right there. And I don't actually think I need all 8. Let's just go with these 7. So now we're going to go ahead and open these in Photoshop. And you should have already, because these are raw files, they should already be adjusted. But if you haven't adjusted them, you can go ahead and adjust them. And then once they're adjusted and you've saved those settings, you can go ahead and open it in Photoshop. But you don't want to just double click or right click and open, because what you want is all 7 layers or images on separate layers. To do that, we're going to go up here to Tools in Bridge. You're going to go Photoshop, and then we're going to go to Load Files into Photoshop Layers. And what this is going to do is it's going to automatically create a new file, and this file is going to have 7 different layers, and each layer is going to be its own separate image. And it automatically does this for you, which saves a lot of time when you're trying to edit things. And so we'll go ahead and let that load them in. And there we go. So now we have 7 different layers, and it's all of our images that we took of this wonderful little dinghy here. So now that we have them in Photoshop, we actually need to make our canvas a little bit bigger, because these images are all stacked on top of each other and we want to actually have them next to each other. So we're going to go in here and we're going to go Image, Canvas Size, and we're going to change the canvas size. This image is pretty wide, so we'll go 50, and it's a little bit taller, so we have some room to work with. We'll go with 25. And we'll go ahead and open that up and zoom out a little bit. Okay, and so now we can move our layers around, and we've got all this extra space to work with when we're aligning them. So we'll go ahead and just kind of move the layers just so that they're in the general area, and you can turn these off if you need to, so you can see where you're moving the previous one or the next one. If you wanted to, you could also turn the opacity down, so you could go like this, and that way you can see the layer that's underneath it while you're working on the current one. Just don't forget to turn it back up to the top once you're done doing that. And so I'm going to go through and just kind of move each of these layers. Got the dinghy there, just about so that they're in the general correct position. And our last image right there about. Okay, so now we've got all our images positioned, and you can see it's all layered on top, and there's a little bit of variation in the brightness, but that's okay, because that's why we're blending. So we're going to select all these layers, and then we're going to go into Edit, and we're going to align the layers, and it'll give you some options. We have Auto, which if you click Auto and let it do that, it'll go through and it'll automatically combine the layers. And this means that it's going to adjust them so that they're matching. But you can see there's some issues. One, this is horribly distorted, and the boat no longer is properly displayed in comparison to the skyline, because in order to get the rest of these images over here on the right to mix in with the boat, they had to pull this over. And I don't really like that. It looks terrible. So we'll go ahead and undo that. And instead, let's go ahead and go in and make sure your layers are selected. And we'll go back to Auto Align, and we're going to use the cylindrical method for this. And this gives us a little more control over the image, and we won't get that horrible distortion. At least we hope we don't get that horrible distortion that we had with the first auto mode. So we'll go ahead and let that process. Okay, And now it's processed. You can see this image looks a lot better. Our horizon is pretty much level and there's no extreme warping up here or down on the boat. So I think we're going to go ahead and stick with that one. So now that we have this, you can see there's still the variations in the water here and a little bit in the sky up here. So what we'll do to get rid of that is we're just going to go edit and we're going to blend the layers together. And what this is going to do, you want to choose Panorama because we shot multiple images lined up next to each other instead of overlapping. If you were doing overlapping, you could do Stack. So we'll do Panorama and we'll select that and we'll go ahead and let that blend. And what this is going to do is it's going to cut out the portions of the image that don't match and it's going to keep the portions of the image that do match. So in the end, we should have one solid image that's made from all 7 of these layers, but it's only made from bits and pieces of each of these layers. Okay, so now you can see that we have completed the blending process, and you can see there are lines on the image, and what these lines are showing you is actually where the images are cut away. So if we go ahead and disable the first layer, there you go. You can see that that's a good portion of the image that it kept, which is the white part on this layer, and the black is everything that it got rid of. And so we can go through and look at each of these pieces, and now, since that looks pretty good and everything looks pretty even, we're going to go ahead and right click on here and we're just going to merge the layers. And what this has done now is it's compressing the layers down into one single image. And then from that image we're going to go ahead and crop for our final picture. And I didn't really like the skyline in the background here very much. It kind of pulled away from the dinghy. If you want, you can keep it. It's up to you. It's your image. So for this one, I'm actually just going to crop it down here. And we'll go ahead and just keep some of the water. I kind of like the way the reflection is from the dinghy. So we'll go ahead and keep that in the image. And maybe crop down a little bit more. I think that looks pretty good right there. Okay, and center a little bit. All right, and so there you go. You can go ahead and crop that. And there's your final image, which is our shot of the dinghy. And this has actually been made from 7 different layers. But if you looked at it, you really couldn't tell because Photoshop does some pretty amazing stuff. I hope that helps you with your pictures in the future if you're ever limited by your lens and you don't have the wide enough one that you're carrying with you. And you need to take a wider shot. This is always a possibility, and I use it quite often because it produces pretty good results.